So good morning, Miss Alex. So good afternoon, Miss Ashley. You probably already know us, but I'm Nyla,
Hi, Nyla. Nyla and Ayesha.
and we're
Hi,
here
nice to meet you. I've never met you before.
Oh, nice to meet you, Miss.
to Miss.
How are you?
We're
I'm
good.
good.
How are you?
How are you guys?
Good, good. Very good. Thank you.
So we wanted to interview you for our upcoming November issue for the Mentarian because it's November. Everyone's busy applying to schools and universities. So we're saying goodbye to 2021, and some of us are saying goodbye to school and teenage years. So we thought it would be fun and fitting to interview our beloved university counselors. So we thought it would be fun to interview our beloved university counselors.
Beloved question mark.
Beloved exclamation mark, miss.
With a question mark at the end.
Must be a big transition for you, yeah? From going high school to university, basically from teenage life to adulthood.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, go ahead, fire away.
Miss, do you want to introduce yourself first?
I'm Alexandra Scherer. I've been working in Mentari since 2007, and then I left for 3 years, came back in 2013. In Mentari, I've been an English teacher, guidance counselor. The guidance counselor is basically social emo counseling, and then university counselor, and now also guidance and university counseling coordinator. So, but I'm no longer teaching. So yes, how can I assist you in your questions? I mean, I saw some of your questions, and they're very interesting.
Ayasha?
Okay, so we'll just start with the first question. So Miss, where did you go to college and what major did you take?
Just a bit of background information. So I went to boarding school in Australia for 2 years. That was Morongo Girls College because I was thinking that I was going to a university in Australia. So in Morongo Girls College, my dad suddenly changed his mind and wanted me to go to the US. So in the US, I took hospitality, basically a hotel management. That was not the original plan. The original plan was to be a dentist, but at the end of high school, I did an internship with a famous dentist back then. I think she's still famous now. And I watched people. She's still a surgeon, and she would open people's gums, and I just could not see that with blood all over and gums all over. So I changed my mind and took something very different, hospitality management at Oregon State University. It's a state university in Oregon, south of Washington. So my family is from Washington State, so I went to Oregon State, not too far.
Okay, maybe Miss, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Ashley. I'm your current overseas university counselor. I work with Miss Alex, who's the guidance counseling coordinator. So she's both university and social emo counselor. And then I also work with Miss Lily. She is our Indonesian university counselor. I focus, obviously, based on my title, on the overseas universities. So with Common App, UCAS, Dutch universities, anything overseas, I can somewhat assist. And for I've been with Mentari for like 2 years now, although it felt a lot longer. And it's been quite a journey with the ups and downs. Every year I learn something new.
Nice. Miss, are we your favorite batch, Miss?
I have only had 2 batches, so there's no favorite batch.
Okay. Okay then. So I'll just get started with the first question. So the first question is, where did you go to college and what major did you take?
Okay. So I went to college from 1990 to 1994. I think in some of your questions, I worked from did I work my first year? I believe I worked from my first year. I was in a dorm for 2 years, I think. And then I lived in an apartment for the next 2 years. I worked for the first 3 years, and I believe I didn't work my last senior year. Um, it was very interesting. My mom wanted me to join. Do you know sororities?
Yeah.
Okay, during her day,
Yeah.
sororities were very famous. And when I went to Oregon State University and went to the initial party, like, it was so shocked that my mom wanted me to go to a sorority. I said, "Are you sure, mom, you want me to go to sorority? This is not my thing, coming from an all girls college." And she said, "No, no, no, they're fun." And I said, "No, mom, I'm not going to a sorority. I'm staying in the dorm, period." So, um, but aside from that, it was fun. I got to meet a lot of people because I majored in food system as first I majored in hospitality management, minored in Japanese. I was born in Japan, grew up in Japan till I was 6, so I love speaking. I still speak Japanese. I have a Japanese nickname. My daughter went to school in Japan, so that was something that I wanted to do, and that was possible in Oregon State University. So at the end of my, I think at the end of my first year, back then there was the Iraqi war, and the U.S. was sending troops to Iraq, and so there were like financial concerns, and hospitality management was one of the departments that had to shut down because of financial issues. You don't hear of these things now, but back then that was an issue. So I changed my major to business, did not like it, and then changed again to food systems management, which is similar to hospitality but studying about food. Why I took that? It was because it was a combination of hospitality, food, and business. My father was in the food business, so I was always very interested in how food affects your life, nutrition, and etc. So that's what I did. I
Wow.
was, in spite of those changes, I was still able to graduate in 4 years. So I was very grateful.
Do you have an Australian accent, Miss?
Do I have an Australian? I don't think so. No, I was only in Australia for 2 years. I don't think I have an Australian accent. Um,
Okay,
third,
so yeah, do you want to continue?
no, if you have questions, like based on what I told you, go ahead. So you don't have to always stick to the script of questions, or you can add to your questions.
I went through the community college route, and I transferred to a four-year university. It's called Chapman University. It's located in Orange, California, Orange County, California. The community college I went to is called Irvine Valley College, IVC. And as far as for my major, I at the time I changed my major 4 times. At the end, I picked business. Yep.
Mhm. Okay, would you mind giving us a brief description of your college years?
Yes, I do not mind at all. I was a good student, and I'm not saying this because I'm lying. I really was. The reason why I was a good student is because I was kind of broke. I did not have the money to go out and party. It was just not in my conveniences. So I actually, when I was in college, I was working at the same time. So I was either tutoring or I was doing like volunteer work here and there. I got like an actual job when I was in my junior year, aka the third year in university, as assistant in the career development center. So I assisted with resumes, mock interviews, the usual stuff. My college experience, probably kind of normal. I enjoyed learning a lot. So I took a lot of really random classes. I took piano just because I want to. I took sociology just because I felt like it. Because in college, that's the best time to learn the weird stuff you've always wanted to learn. So, and then I also, I did a lot of volunteering just to experience what it's like to be in their shoes, what it's like to experience, what it's like to volunteer in the animal shelter, what it's like to volunteer in the soup kitchen. I don't know if you guys know what it is, but it's basically where you feed the homeless.
No.
Basically, so my college year was actually just mostly filled with activities that I didn't have the chance to do in high school because I was so busy. So college to me was probably the most fun I've had in my years.
Oh, okay. Sounds very fun, Miss.
Fun. You're getting me excited.
Yeah.
what are some common misconception about college that most students have?
Mm, misconception. I think one is that you have to go to college straight away, because I think each individual student is in a unique set of circumstances. There are some students that would be perfect to go to university right away. But for some others, maybe they'd like to explore what they'd like to do or the best fit major for them. So they might take a gap year, do some volunteer work, find out about themselves, find out about what they're passionate about in life. Because otherwise, I don't want students to just go to university because they have to. And it's just like flat. They have no feelings about it. They have to be excited about going to university and what they're going to be doing for the next 3 or 4 years. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay.
There's a lot of misconceptions, in my opinion. Everybody has different opinions. They either think college is going to be really, really easy or college is really, really hard. Long story short, and also there's a misconception that colleges seems to hate students if they're rejected. That's usually not the case. It's just kind of, it's a bit difficult to tell why a college rejected a student. For example, if I say off of the US universities, they don't reject you because they hate you. They're just really, really, really full. College in there, at least as far as I know, it still kind of works like a business. They have a budget, they have to pay employees, they have to work how much money they can gain, and they all also have to consider the capacity. So when someone rejects you, it's not really personal. It's never personal. It's always other circumstances. No capacity, just way too many students, way too many talented students that year, way too little students in the other majors that they're looking for. So really there's a lot of misconceptions in that part. Another misconception I do notice is that they think college is easy. It is easy to a certain point. It is also hard to a certain point. If you're not disciplined, you party every day, you don't study, you think this is the best time of your life because you're away from parents, think again, because it's no such thing. You're an adult now. You're considered an adult at that age. So you have to now be responsible if you fail a grade.
The leap from the second question to the third question. The second question got me excited, then the third question would be like, maybe I don't want to go to college. Okay, the next question is, do you think that there is a big pressure for students to go to university and pursue higher education, and why or why not decide?
I definitely do. I think there is too much pressure built on these students. I don't know if it's coming from the school, the parents, or just society in general, but like now we do counseling, career counseling from grade 9, and some parents are so worried, grade 9, my kid doesn't know what to do. Well, that's normal. I mean, like, they're grade 9. What do you expect? So but it's very difficult. I can't say that to parents, of course. I have to smile and say, yes, Ibu, and be very understanding. But it's a time when students really are exploring their interests. Do I like dance? And when grade 9, I like dancing. I like traditional dances. So I thought I was going to be a dancer. And then you go to higher studies, you go to the grade 10, and now you do, like with IB, you're doing a whole lot of subjects, which is wonderful. You're exposed to the sciences, or the socials. You don't have to choose yet, and that's great. But at the end of grade 10, going to grade 11, because of the IB program, you do definitely have to choose, are you more interested in the sciences or the socials, and what are the university requirements, whether it be with IB or A levels. A levels are a bit stricter because you have to only choose 4 subjects and you go down to 3. So I think because of the curriculums now used in the different schools, there's more pressure everywhere from parents. I think it goes up, from the university, high school, junior high, and then parents. Everybody's involved in this bubble of trying to decide what your kid is going to do in university and then for the rest of their lives. So yeah, I wish it would be easier, and that's why we're trying to make it easier for the grade 9 students by doing career assessment from this year on their multiple intelligence. So start off with, what are your 3 highest multiple intelligence skills? Is it like interpersonal, intrapersonal, naturalist. I think back in your days, we didn't do it from grade 9. We did it from grade 10. So now we're doing it from grade 9. And then we ask questions like, what are your interests? Oh, miss, I play online games. Or, okay, what do you enjoy about it? What kind of career would you think you are going to have? So we start having these talks in year 9 just to give students more of a chance to think about it, maybe, or be exposed to it. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
Actually, in
Very
grade 9,
like,
Sorry?
they gave me one of those tests, and I think I got like a teacher or something, like
Mhm.
a job. So, yeah.
Mm-mm.
and it's interesting how
Yeah.
you see yourself evolve as well, because I had that test in like grade 4, and then like my social skills were like very low, and then I took it again like recently, and it became very high. So it's like an interesting way to see yourself evolve.
I think my recommendation is not to take it so young because this is something that keeps on changing and it's normal. So let's say in grade 5, you're not really involved or you're not interested in nature. And then when you go into junior high, you go on these trips and you're more interested in nature. So your existential skills or naturalist skills will go up higher. And that is normal, very, very normal. So I guess I would not recommend it to do it when you're in elementary or lower level middle school, just because not to stigmatize yourself that I'm this way or that way.
Okay, the next question is, do you think that there is a big pressure for students to like go to college and pursue higher education, and why or why not?
I would say yes, there is some sort of pressure of students going to college, especially your year and younger, because everybody's going, because quite a lot of people are going. Now, what people don't realize, in some cases, colleges are not necessary. Sometimes you don't need to have a degree to do certain things. You can still be successful if you graduate and find a job immediately, because I will say the job market is shifting more and more towards experience rather than education. This does not apply to STEM, by the way. If you're aiming for STEM, you need a college degree. You can't get away from with not getting a college degree for STEM. But when you're aiming for, like you want to be a writer, you want to be CEO, you want to own your own business, you don't have to immediately go to college. You can kind of wait a little bit for it. Some countries, I will say, does not accept students after a certain age, so you just go to another country that has no limitation, like US doesn't have limitation as far as I know. But people don't realize there's no immediate need to immediately go. It's just nice because you're still young, you learn quick, and you can get this thing out of the way. But people don't realize that it's not necessary anymore because a degree doesn't guarantee a job.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Very nice, yes.
Yeah.
So the next question is, when do you think a student should start preparing for college?
As soon as you know you're going to college. So I wouldn't say it doesn't hurt to start at grade 9 or 10 even, because the earlier the better. And I tell you why. Because when you have students that start way late, for example, somebody who started at grade 12, now you realize, oh man, I have to build my resume, I have to build my CV, I should have built a club, I should have joined student council, I should have joined this, I should have joined that. But you don't have that much time to do all of that in just your last year of high school. You just don't. But if you plan ahead, you're starting grade 9, you knew exactly, I want to major in this specific thing. Or even if you don't, but at least you know, okay, I want to go to this type of university, I'm aiming for Ivy Leagues. Ivy Leagues are going to look for students that founded a club, win math competition, win science competitions. Those things they're always going to look for. So might as well start at 9th grade, and you plan ahead. You plan like, okay, maybe in 11th grade I can join the MUN competition debate and I can go up overseas. Even if it doesn't come true, I have other backups to think about. It is a lot of pressure, but at the same time, better starting early and build your CV ahead rather than you waiting until 12th grade and you're kind of realizing, man, I really don't have enough to talk about in my essays.
Yeah. That's why I got joined the Mentarian, build your CV.
Yes, guys, learn the Mentarian. It's a really good way to amplify your CB.
Okay, Miss. So like the next question is, when do you think a student should start preparing for college?
Start preparing for college, I would say grade 11. Because in grade 11 is when, for Mentari, you're taking your IB subjects, and then you already have to start choosing your target, reach, and safety. And then you also have to prepare for your requirements and the deadlines.
So when a student is confused if they should stay in Indonesia or go abroad, what aspects should they reflect on?
First, easiest, money. What can you afford? Because at the end of the day, what is your net worth? You have to consider the plus and the minuses as well, the credit and the debit. If you invest a lot of money going to US and you know for sure you're gonna spend $80,000 a year, and you're gonna go for this major that's typical, like a business major. You come back, you graduate, you come back to Indo, your salary, if you're lucky, starts at 20 mil per month. And then you start calculating from then, because remember, inflation also needs to be considered. Do you really want to pay 80,000 a year, considering like your parents are already, assuming your parents are comfortable, yeah? Assuming they're comfortable, they don't have an issue. You come back within the next 5 years, you make, say you got really lucky and you can make like 30 or 40 million a month. Then yeah, maybe it pays off. But when you come back and you're only getting maybe like 10 mil or only like 5 mil, maybe it's not so worth it with that overseas education. Now, I've had students who says, Miss, I want to go overseas because I want to work overseas, I want to live overseas. Now, that's a different story. You're not chasing the money, you're chasing a standard of life. That's a different story, obviously. But in a lot of students' mind, they don't realize like it's fine to just go to a local university for undergrad. Better actually if you go to a local university for undergrad, because people know ITB. People know UI. People will go to UI to hire students. People don't necessarily go to NYU from Indo just to hire students over there. So you have to consider way, way, way far in the future, the plus and the minuses. And let's not forget, you can still go for a master's or S2 abroad. That's not an issue.
Interesting.
Oh, should I go to an Indo? Okay.
I looked at this question and I have three recommendations, three aspects. Number one is the major. For example, if it's psychology, it's recommended to stay in Indonesia, because if you would like to get your license as a psychologist, practicing psychologist in Indonesia, it's recommended that you get your master's in Indonesia. Second is law. Third is medicine. The second deciding factor is the finances. For example, for some students, limited finances, then maybe take your a bachelor's here and then master's overseas, or you can try and get a scholarship. Now the LBTP scholarship is available for both bachelor's and master's. For some students who are taking the inter program is actually not as expensive if you do the whole program in Indonesia. But if you do the 2 years program in Indonesia and then, for example, 2 years in Australia, it's almost the same as going to Holland. And the third, so first is major, second is finances, and the third would be where you'd like to work in the future. For example, if you'd like to work overseas, I'd recommend you to go to countries that would allow you to work after you graduate. For example, Germany. After you graduate from Germany and work 3 years, you can get permanent residency. It's a bit more difficult to work in Australia now than it used to, but you have more job opportunities in Canada as well. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, it's.
Yes, you did, Miss. Okay, so the next question is, under what circumstances do you think a gap year is advisable?
Whenever you feel necessary. That part is not something that a counselor or an outsider has a say in. If you feel that you must have a gap year, whatever reason it is, COVID, not feeling healthy, have a lot of family issues, money, whatever reason it is, if you feel like you must have a gap year, go take a gap year. Now, the only tricky part is that during the gap year, you don't do anything. when you have a gap year, that's a perfect place for you to get a certificate, to learn a new language, to learn skills you've never learned before, because guarantee you in every essay I've seen, they will ask if you have a gap year in your CV, explain why. Explain the reason for this gap year. But they also want to know, what have you been doing? You can't just be saying I've been lazing around and doing nothing. You have to say, I've been volunteering, I've been working, I've been helping out with my parents' businesses, I've been taking care of my grandma who's sick and alone at home. Stuff like that. You have to fill it up with something. You can't just say, I took a gap year because I want to.
Okay.
I kind of answered that question in the beginning. Gap year is advisable for people who are quite unsure what they want to do with their lives. Basically, like, I'm not sure what I want to do. I have a bit of more time. Okay, I'm just going to take a gap year. But I advise people who are taking a gap year to do it wisely, because you still have to have a routine. So you have to plan out what are you going to do during that gap year. So if you work in your father's company, great, but try and work in different departments. So every 2 months, move departments and get a feeling of the whole company. Sorry.
So has a student ever impressed you a lot?
I think a lot of
Yes, it's okay.
a lot of my students always impress me at one point or another, no matter who I talk to. Whether it's like academic or whether it's like the way they talk or the way they perform, there's always someone who impressed me. Like last year, Kai, amazing kid, who got a 45 out of 45. But to me, last year, like last batch, the one that impressed me the most was obviously Nadine, because she's doing everything. She's doing student council, she's doing momentum, she's doing this, she's doing that, and she still got a 44 out of 45 IB. That really impressed me. She's like the all in one package. Another one that really impressed me last year was Matthew, who's also the student council president. He who has a real estate license at 18. Like who does that? I've never heard of it. So to me, kids that do things really outside of the box and still somehow manage to have a normal life really impressed me. This year, I will not say, because this will be published, so I will not have my favorite.
Spoiler alert, it's us.
It's us, guys. Obviously, guys, fun fact, Kai was our EIC before us.
Yeah. So this is the golden path, Mentarian.
Yeah, We're gonna get 45. I don't know.
You guys have a lot of pressure this year, because last batch I heard was one of the best. So you guys have a big shoe to fill.
Oh my god! Stop pressuring us, Wes. Okay.
Okay, this is a unique question. I love dealing with students, so I'm always impressed by every single student. This is hard to believe, but I've been working in the education, I've been teaching or being in the education industry since probably over 20 years. So I feel that even if the student is maybe for some teachers the most difficult, I always find something that I'm impressed about that student. I'll give you an example. I had one student who hardly graduated, who hardly made it. So you would think he's a failure, but not me. He had a difficult background, difficult circumstances in life, and he graduated with very minimal financial assistance from his family. So he wanted to study and that was impossible with the financial circumstances the family was in. So he ended up having to work part-time, and he would put me in his CV as a reference. And he did start to get jobs, whether it be, I cannot mention the jobs or anything because his identity would be revealed. So anyway, after a year and a half of working, this job and that job, he made it. He was able to earn his income, so he could at least financially be able to feed himself and have enough money for transport. And then he majored in a field that would support him in these part-time jobs. There was a time when he came to me crying because an accident happened and he couldn't even tell his family that something happened and he needed money. So there are times that I cry for him and with him. But he's one of the students that I would say, wow, and I hope that, like if you were in that situation one day, you could survive like he did. Yeah. That's
like really inspiring.
Yeah.
Next question. Should a student be working while they're in college?
Not in their first year, guaranteed. 100% never, ever, ever, ever work in your first year. I can say this from experience. I had to quit tutoring in first year because I had to adjust. And even though I was living in that country for a long time, I still had to adjust in college life and having to make your own schedule, having, building your own kind of assignment schedule and everything. You're gonna struggle a lot. You're gonna have to learn, I didn't pay the tuition this month. What do I do? It's way too stressful when you're working and doing this at the same time. Better to give yourself that first year to adjust and really, really, really settle yourself. In second or third year, when you feel more comfortable, when you feel most comfortable, then you can start working. If needed. If not, then don't.
It depends on the major, it depends on the country. So when I was in college, I was able to work from year one. I was cleaning, preparing like the meals in the dorm and then cleaning the kitchen. So I could see, when I was cleaning, what is it, in charge of, they had this conveyor belt of all these trays of food that would go through there. I would see the amount of food that was wasted. It was amazing. And I would always like, why aren't we like donating this amount of food to the homeless? Because, even back then there were so many homeless people. We could donate so much food, like if you just didn't take so much on your tray and just took enough. And then if you wanted more, you could go for seconds, but not take so much in one go. So yes, I worked my first year, I worked my second year, and partly through my third year. But that was possible, maybe because my major was not that demanding. But maybe if you're in medicine or if you're in other fields that are really demanding, I wouldn't recommend you working. Now, like for example, with my daughter, she went to Japan. She was there for 4 years. I didn't recommend her working her first year, but I think she worked in her second, third, and fourth year. Everybody's circumstances is different, so just I can't say yes, work, or no, don't work. Depends on your situation.
I see. All right. So our last question would be, what's one thing that you want students to have as a key takeaway in their college experience?
Work hard, play hard. Definitely work hard, play hard. Because if you think about it, this is the only chance that you have to be separate from this is the first chance you have to be separate from your family members usually. This is the very first step to your adulthood. Once you get to this step, once you know how to manage your time, once you know what is your limit, it gets much easier once you get to adulthood, because it only gets a lot more complicated when you grow older. You have a boss to have to take to answer to. It's no longer your parents, so you can't just say, no, I don't want to do this. You have bills to take care of. You have, eventually when you have kids, you don't have to feed them. You have to make sure they live. So it just gets a lot more complicated once you move on. So when you're at this age, this is a very good age for you to really just enjoy your life. Really, really, really know what your limit is. And once you have that limit, what do you do to manage that stress? Because once you hit the stress, you don't have that luxury of throwing a tantrum anymore. You don't want to see a 30-year-old adult throwing a tantrum in the middle of hypermart. It's kind of embarrassing. So you want to know where your limit is. And also, well, for the girls, my biggest takeaway is don't be in a rush to find a relationship. Especially the younger you are, the more pressure I feel like for women to have work and to find a job, because it's getting much too expensive to feed even yourself. So when you're focusing too much on boyfriend, girlfriend, and when you're having, well, not just the girls, I should say, the boys too, when you're focusing too much on relationship and not really investing where your money should be at, it's really, what's the point of going abroad, or what's the point of paying so much money for university? You know, might as well finish graduate high school, go get married. You don't go to high school, you don't go to college to find a boyfriend unless your goal is to get a citizenship in that country. Then do it after like 11th and 12th year, but don't do it in the first year or second year. When you have a goal in mind and your goal is to get a citizenship and you need to get married for that, then it's a different story, of course. But in my opinion, relationship never really lasts very long. Very rarely do they last very long. When they met abroad and then they come back to Indo, it became kind of complicated. But anyways, that is my takeaway. Work hard, play hard is a lot harder than just working hard, by the way. Like, you have to find that balance. But once you find that balance, it'll be very comfortable in your life.
All right.
I'm Jimmy. Who is this guy you're talking about? Okay.
So our last question is, what's the one thing that you want students to have as their key takeaway from their college experience?
You mean when they graduate from university?
Yeah.
Well, students when they graduate from university think, wow, like, I think the one thing that students have to be open to is open to any kind of experience that's they're going to get. Of course, expect that everything is going to be smooth, but also expect that things are going to be rough. Things are not going to be as you expect it to be. And be open to all possibilities, new adventures, not be scared to try new things, meet new people, and be the first one to do something in your industry. Come up with a major, come up with an occupation that would be needed in the industry.
Very, very
Okay.
inspiring, Miss.
Very nice, sir. So for our next questions, these are just fun, quick questions. So just answer the first thing that pops up in your head.
Favorite subject. Okay, now later on in life, this was before I took my diploma in psychology and counseling. I became a licensed mediator. Why? Because of personal experience. I thought it was so cool, to mediate between two conflicting parties and to be able to come up with a win-win situation. So the course was heavily based on law. Then I became very interested in law. So if I were to go back to school, maybe take law. Not to be a lawyer, but I'm interested in law.
What about your least favorite subject?
Probably math, physics.
You prefer Ivy Leagues or UC schools?
I think Ivy Leagues has the variety of different schools, whether it be more based on science or research or liberal arts, whereas UC is just UC and based in California. Ivy Leagues all over the States, all over the United States. So I would prefer Ivy.
Oxford or Cambridge?
Makes sense. Actually, I have no preference. Just I am more familiar with the name Cambridge because being an English teacher, for example, IELTS examination, Cambridge. And then IGCSE, Cambridge. That's all. But both are very established universities.
So other than your major, if you could study like any other major, what would it be?
If I were to go back to university, I've been thinking about it. I would study probably something along psychiatry. Maybe not get a master's, but I'd like to take a certificate and find out more about mental health. I'd like to study more about addiction and how to assist people who are addicted to certain substances, or people who are bulimic. More on mental health, because I believe that mental health affects your physical health. your mental health condition affects your relationship with other people, and that affects families. And I think the future generation really depends on people who are able to maintain their mental health, to be aware, not be scared to say, I need help, and get the help they need.
Oh, it's very, very nice, Miss. If you could create a new major that you want to teach, what would it be?
Yeah, I have one. Mindfulness, mental health from a young age. I think it should be compulsory. How to manage your anger. Just anything to do with mental health, I think should be a compulsory subject, 1 hour a week, that kids from a very young age, how did you deal with anger this week? I think there is a program on TV. I forgot. It's a cartoon. And it's about this school of little characters. And they're all dealing with anger. And if there's one person that gets out of line during that class, they have to stand out and say, why were they not able to manage their anger? And I think that's so cool. Right now, people from all walks of life, whether they're educated or uneducated, are not able to deal with anger or communicate their feelings in a way that we can understand.
Yeah.
I think that's key subject. Communication, anger, for example. How do you feel today? Well, I feel I'm really annoyed. I woke up late. My mom didn't wake me up, and I kind of still feel a bit weird this morning. But we don't have that in class. You just go to class, start, math, physics, whatever, and yeah. So that's I feel very
I think
strongly about
that
that.
should
Number 6.
be, I think that should be a really compulsory major. I think that should exist in every school and every college.
Mm, yeah.
Okay, so from your experience, from like your
Mm.
knowledge, what do you think is the hardest overall major to get into?
I think it would be medicine or engineering. The sciences, I think, would be more difficult.
Yeah. What about the most seeked out major inventory?
I have to look at our statistics, but as far as I know, it depends from year to year, but it seems that the socials are more popular than the sciences in general. Yeah, in general.
Let's see.
Okay, next one is OE or ITB.
I hope I don't offend anybody. Yeah, sorry, but I feel it's ITB because I think ITB goes to the next level of, it's more difficult. I think in UE, if you study in groups, you're still able to get by. But I heard in ITB, you really have to be excelling to be able to get through the 4 years of a bachelor's degree in ITB.
Oh, I see. Okay, last question is something you miss from your teenage years.
Okay, something I miss. Okay, this is a phrase that my kids tell me. Mom, they say, you don't have any friends. Everybody who comes to you want to tell you their problem. And I think, because of my all these different roles, it's been, Miss Alex, what about this? What about that? But not just like talking. How are you today? Not wanting something or not like asking me a question. And I miss that, like just miss having friends that I just don't have the time actually. That's the thing. So it's always like whether it be the neighbor or whether it be the maid or whether it be somebody at the work. So I just miss the like when during school days, people just talking, how are you today? Oh, great. What assignment do you have? Oh, I have this, and what did you do this weekend? I did that. um that I miss. But otherwise, I'm all good. I'm a very family person, so I still have my mom who's going to be 80 this year. I have 2 kids, a husband, so I'm very involved with things that are going around in the family, either that or work.
I see. So you miss the small talk, like the old small talk.
Yeah, I think people. I don't know. I think back then maybe it was just me, but people had more time just to talk. But now people are rushing here, rushing there, or communicating only through um handphone. And I don't think I think it's wonderful that people are going back again offline because you can really talk. How are you? And you can see it on their faces, whether they're doing well or not, whether they're fidgeting because they're nervous or something had gone wrong. So it gives a more quality way of communicating.
I see.
Okay.
Okay. So the first question is, what's your favorite subject?
Business.
Ooh, what's your least favorite subject?
PE.
Um, Ivy Ivy Leagues or UC schools?
Ivy Leagues.
Oxford or Cambridge?
Cambridge.
If you could study a major, what would it be? Like other than
If-
your major that you had.
If I can go back in time.
Yeah, or like something that you low-key wanted to study. instead of-
Okay, veterinarian.
Oh, okay. That's cute.
Vet medicine, I should say.
Ooh, okay. If you were to create a new major to teach, what would it be?
I don't think there is a major. I feel like every major out there has already been taught. Art of TA. The art of
Ooh.
or cultural. I should say like cultural preservation, if that's even a thing.
That's so cool. Wait, that's cool. Okay. So far from your experience as a college counselor, what do you think is the hardest overall major to get into?
STEM. Anything STEM.
No one here is. Are you not going to STEM, Ayasha?
Oh.
Okay. In your experience, what's the most seeked out major in Mentari for like Mentari students?
Business.
Okay. Okay. So speaking of like of Indonesian universities before, do you prefer UI or ITB?
ITB.
Okay.
Same.
Last question. Something that you missed from your teenage years.
Oh man. There's too many things to name, but I would say something that I miss. I would say the experience. Like you'll realize it when you get to my age, you two. You'll start reminiscing the good old days of when you were in high school or when you were in college, when things were simpler, when you don't have to worry about certain things. But I think the experience, cherish it very much and just live day by day and enjoy it.
Oh, but we don't have to pay the bills.
Okay, imagine you have a pet, you have a dog or a hamster, whatever. You have to feed it for the next 20 years. And imagine dog food is already like what? Okay, if you're cheap and you go to Tokoped and you buy like the cheapest dog food, that's like 500,000, right, for the 20K. And okay, imagine you have to pay that every month for the next 20 years. That's pretty much what life is when you have a family. Except it's a lot more expensive. Like the number's a lot bigger than that.
Okay, this is the end of our interview. Thank you so much, Miss. We really enjoyed this interview and I hope you enjoyed it as well. And yeah, that's the end.
Awesome.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for choosing me, even though I don't feel like I was the right person, but thank you for picking me.
All right, Miss. Let me forwarding the very inspiring answer, Miss. I did not expect that personally. But so yeah, this is the end of our interview. Thank you so much, Miss Alex, for agreeing to do this with us. Learned so much from your insights.
Thank you. I hope I made sense and hope it can be inspiring. And one thing I didn't say is that when I was in high school, I didn't have the opportunity for the career exposure that students are now getting. It really upsets me because I used to organize events, for example. You have top universities come in and students would be talking throughout the professor or throughout the talk. That upsets me because back in my days, I'm now 51, we just did not have that kind of exposure on universities coming in and talking to us about the different careers, different majors, and this is available, that is available. Everything had to be from books, hard copy books. So if you had the hard copy, you were able to get the information. If not, then good luck, because there's no such thing as Google, internet, or anything like that. So I hope that students would appreciate the amount of information that there is, and try to, I know there's so much information available now, and sometimes it is overwhelming to filter all that information, but I think to appreciate that all these experts are there to assist in getting you to the best fit career for you.
Exactly. Period, Miss. Thank you.
Period.
Okay, most welcome. Have a good evening, yeah?
Have a good day,
Miss,
Miss.
don't go yet. Wait,
Okay.
take a picture.
Okay.
Take a picture.